Let's go YouTube. It's your boy D-Wiz and I'm back to get into the video, man. I see we doing the reaction. We're doing the reaction. Hey, the 10 darkest Spongebob episodes. Like, this video kind of long. It'll be like 31. So we might do 5 or 3. And we're going to do this shit in like increments and shit like that. But like, man, I ain't going to talk. Y'all see this shit. Y'all see this square ass motherfucker right here. We about to see what this nigga talking about, bro.
Howdy. Over 20 years, the show SpongeBob has inevitably stumbled on some pretty serious subjects. So today, I'd like to look over these episodes. We can decide if they were handled with respect and care, or if the subject was completely fumbled.
Bro, that
there
episode,
have been so many subjects.
Bro, that episode where this motherfucker had the damn splinter in his thumb, bro. When this nigga had to splinter his shit, bro, that shit was weird to watch. I could not watch that shit. And then the snail episode where this motherfucker turned into a damn, oh my god.
To OCD, to a midlife crisis, to racism, even murder. But more on that later. So, let's check out the 10 SpongeBob episodes that dealt with serious issues. And if you're familiar with my show, you probably know which of my friends I'm gonna ask to help us chat about these.
Hey Strider, it's nice to be back.
Ah, hey, it's good to see you, George.
This topic is certainly familiar for me. In my older videos, I've talked about a lot of kids shows that dealt with serious issues.
Indeed you have, my friend, which I think makes us the perfect team to tackle these episodes together.
Sounds great. I'm ready when you are.
Okay, great. On to the countdown. For number 10.
I gotta sneak one. Just one. Then I'm off the stuff for good.
Just one bite. For the subject of addiction. Huh. The perspective here is an interesting one. We get a much closer look at the mindset of someone completely addicted to something and how it affects them on the inside. I personally tend to think of food addictions for this one. You know, chocolate, cheesecake, or
drugs, bro.
Or something. In this case, I think it's more of the fried foods, since Squidward is now addicted to Krabby Patties. But at any cost, he does not want to let SpongeBob know.
After that performance,
drugs!
He'd never let me live it down.
It's pretty intense when we see the deep craving Squidward has for this fried burger, watching carefully every tiny dance of flavor and fat fried off the patties.
Squidward throughout the episode is just tortured by his new craving for these burgers, even to the point of fantasizing about marrying and growing old with the Krabby Patty in his dreams. Okay, maybe Squidward has a personal lustfulness for fried meat? I don't know.
What do I have to do? Eat one out of the garbage?
I mean, whatever floats your boat, man. You ain't hurting nobody.
Obviously, this is all meant to further hammer home to us how obsessed Squidward is with the Krabby Patty. And eventually, he does get his wish. He gets access to the patty vaults. Unfortunately, it goes straight to his thighs.
And then you blow up.
Cat thighs.
Silky smooth chocolate to uplift any moment. Unwrap, uplift.
Bro, I'm not buying YouTube Premium, bro. I'm not buying that shit. They're gonna sit through these fucking ads with me. I'm not buying that shit, dog.
This episode mainly focuses on the potential power of addiction. However, I think there's one more thing that could have been addressed here, and that's Squidward's recovery from addiction. Perhaps if Squidward had refrained from that momentary desire and impulse, maybe that desire would have slowly weakened as time went on. While addiction itself is a deeply complex psychological subject, I think this introduces both.
I know this motherfucker talking about addiction to like food and everything, food addiction and sugar, you know what I'm saying? But motherfucker get addicted to sugar, that is something bad. That is bad as hell, cause then your body start looking all sloppy, da-da-da. But we know these motherfuckers is hitting that drugs. They hitting that drug, bro. Need one more taste. One more sniff. One more, you know what I'm saying? One more, you know what I'm saying? Look. You know what I'm saying? Shit like that. We know them boys. We know what they're getting
both
at.
Kids and adults to what addiction can be like.
Addiction is certainly no easy subject to tackle, but I think just one bite at least gives a clear perspective on how challenging addiction can be to handle.
One hit,
and for
you're
number
done.
9,
you're done. One hit, you're done.
Sites for addressing the dangers of self-medication and not seeing a doctor. This one's early on the list because I personally think the dangers of self-medication is a pretty important subject right now. So while retention rates are still somewhat high, I wanted to talk about this early. Plus, it's a flimsy pretense to bring a friend of mine out of retirement to talk about it.
Hey Strider, good to see you again.
Ah, hey Jem, good to see you on video
Who
again,
the fuck
man.
is these niggas,
Hey
bro?
George.
Oh, hey Jem. Nice to meet you.
Likewise. So this episode is actually an old favorite of mine. In fact, it's probably the first SpongeBob episode I noticed that talked about a serious problem. When SpongeBob gets sick with the suds, he initially does the smart thing and plans to go to the doctor.
I'm sick, Patrick. I'm going to the doctor.
Unfortunately, annoying old Patrick gives SpongeBob misinformation and scares him out of going to the doctor.
No stethoscope! No doctor! No magazine! No!
What's great about this episode is its subtlety. When you get down to it, this episode is hammering into your head the reality of how dangerous it can be to self-medicate. But it's doing it in all the right ways.
All you need, say all you need, bro, Tylenol, ibuprofen, bro. Get a little ginger ale, drink that motherfucker. Get a little pink bubblies, that little pink stomach. It just got a little stomach bug. You know what I'm saying? Get a little pink thing. You know what I'm saying? Take about like that much of that shit, and then you take that shit, go lay down for a little bit, sip up some ginger ale. You know what I'm saying? Shit, you know what I'm saying? You got a headache, take Alka-Seltzer. You know, all right, come on, some medication. Them bills, I see why motherfuckers be wanting to do self-med. Them bills be crazy.
One of the good examples of this is using Sandy as the voice of reason. But she's not just getting the message across verbally. That would probably portray her as naggy.
Patrick, SpongeBob has to see a real doctor. You should be arrested for impersonating a doctor. Hey, don't do
Take that, you dumb squirrel!
No, they show us rather than tell us. A great example of that is Patrick's montage of terrible treatment attempts. Which gets me to point number 2. It doesn't use these treatments as fear tactics.
Bro, I was gonna do that shit with my tooth one time.
The treatments are all presented.
Bro, I was gonna send though my loose tooth one time, but I was too pussy to do it. I couldn't do that shit.
In really clever, charming
if y'all ever did that
ways.
shit, bro,
It's still very subtle. Like creating a random drug cocktail, using physical treatments for other conditions. Hell, they even end it with what I can only assume is dark magic.
One of my favorite treatments is when Patrick literally puts a band-aid over SpongeBob's problem. And if that isn't a good analogy for self-medication, I don't know what is. I'm surprised Patrick didn't just sweep SpongeBob under the rug.
I think we're also given a more eerie message. Just how hard it is to tell if self-medicating is doing anything beyond just making you worse. Like SpongeBob thinking that because Patrick's treatment is resulting in no bubbles, it must be working. He doesn't realize or is simply ignoring the fact that the treatments are clearly making him worse.
I still remember seeing this episode as a kid, and I never felt like I was being nagged to. I was shown rather than told the dangers of not seeing a doctor about sickness.
I feel as good as new. I love the doctor.
Call me crazy, but I'd actually like to see this episode shown in classes at schools. Because as a 90s kid, I remembered the lesson of this episode way better than anything my teachers told me. Because I'd argue teaching kids to trust the doctor over, I don't know,
bro,
the
teachers
internet,
did not talk about going to the damn doctor, dog. They didn't talk about going to the fucking doctor, bro. The fuck is you talking about? No teacher talked about going to the fucking doctor.
It's probably a pretty important lesson.
Yes, Suds is an episode that gives both teachers and parents a great platform to talk to their kids about these serious topics.
If they want to teach a class about going to the doctor and how serious it is, why the fuck do they have a bullshit ass nurse in the school? Why? Huh? Every time you go down to the goddamn nurse office, bro, they're gonna give you an ice pack for any type of injury that you got. Go call your people so you gonna pick your ass up. School is not gonna give you no goddamn shit about doctors' offices and everything. They didn't. They never did.
Agreed.
Or at least Carlton did.
Overtime again. It was good to see you, Jem. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show.
Carlton didn't do that shit.
I'm headed back to editing only work though. The segment's not gonna edit itself. But until we meet again.
Much obliged, my friend. It's good to still have you here in some capacity. Number 8. Squirrel jokes and its discussion of racism. With only one of her kind in all of Bikini Bottom, Sandy is absolutely a minority. She's someone who came from far off lands alone with no support networks and built herself a home in a foreign land. I think she's a really strong character that way. It's part of why she's one of my favorite characters. Unfortunately, in this episode, she starts off as the butt of SpongeBob's jokes.
Did you ever notice how big squirrels' teeth are?
That's true.
This here is a pretty good take on how xenophobic jokes can lead to stereotyping, and how this stereotyping can negatively influence how other groups are perceived.
Hey, look,
guys! It's the stupid squirrel!
I know, let's try and communicate with it.
Apparently, Mr. Krabs has started a comedy club, and SpongeBob is up on stage. Unfortunately, most of his jokes stink, until he gets a response by resorting to cheap laughs and stereotyping his close friend Sandy.
SpongeBob is conflicted, because he's getting an audience response when he's using cheap jokes at Sandy's expense. But he knows it's hurting Sandy's feelings and how she's being treated.
Bro, that's how all
communities.
That's how all comedians are, though, bro. That's how all comedians make it, bro. You get, I ain't gonna lie, I don't know these motherfuckers' names. I don't be watching them like on TV and shit. I just see them on TikTok. But this how all comedians be talking, bro. They be talking about black people, white people, you know what I'm saying, Mexican, Latino. They talk about everybody and all type of shit. Especially, they really be cracking down on some goddamn Indians, motherfuckers. They be talking all about motherfuckers, bro. All races, no matter boy, girl, black, white. They don't care, bro. They talk about all this shit. So why is you cracking down on SpongeBob for cracking about a squirrel, bro? That's just not weird. That's just not.
SpongeBob dropped the mic and supposedly chooses friend over this lowbrow comedy. I felt really proud of him, but my heart sank when I saw him dive out, continuing his charade of cheap laughs.
I can imagine some people saying SpongeBob is too insensitive in this episode, and that's fair. But I think seeing SpongeBob hurt Sandy like this makes the message more memorable.
Plus, it leads to Sandy demonstrating how drastically different she is from the stereotype SpongeBob has painted of her.
You look like you've got a strong opinion on this, Strider. What's on your mind?
Well, if I may share my own experience of my 5 or so years on YouTube, my preference has always been on making jokes at the expense of myself. To me, being the butt of the joke is way more thrilling than putting anyone else on the line. On TV tropes, they call this term being a butt monkey, and I kinda like that term.
Yeah, I can see that. I think there needs to be a balance. It's good to be humble and to have humility, but I don't think anyone should constantly be a butt monkey. Sure, you can laugh at yourself, but don't be the class clown that everyone picks on, you know? But that's just me.
We all gotta laugh at ourselves once in a while. I do it all the time. Ah! Ah! Ah!
I think squirrel jokes can remind viewers of something important.
There's no
more comedians
like
out there than
bro.
there have ever been in history. And if all a comedian can contribute is cheap jokes and stereotyping at the expense of others, then maybe they shouldn't be a comedian.
But to be fair, by the end, SpongeBob's jokes do get a lot better. He's able to start making fun of himself. And because they're good jokes, the crowd laughs along with him.
That's true. He even pokes some fun at Mr. Krabs, who also laughs.
It's true!
In fact, not one person in the room is offended. I think Squirrel Jokes handles the subject of racism pretty well, and SpongeBob walks away learning something right along with the viewer.
It sounds like she was just sensitive. Nah, I'm saying, say my homeboy, he gonna go to the stage, and I'm saying he comedian act, and he start cracking on me. It only be right if he crack on me, everybody laugh, blah, blah, blah. It's only right if they give me a chance to go up there. She ain't asked to go up there. She ain't asked to get her lit back. She ain't asked for none of that shit. So motherfuckers is soft.
Number 7.
I forgot this 2023. Motherfuckers is soft nowadays.
Squid's Day Off. For its addressing of obsessive compulsive disorder. Man, this one hit me hard. As someone with OCD myself, I could really empathize with Squidward here. The episode's all about Squid's breakdown as he continually feels overwhelming compulsions and what-if panic when he leaves SpongeBob to run the restaurant by himself.
So the story is, Mr. Krabs has lost his arms in a kitchen accident, and is rushed to the hospital. So he decides to leave Squidward in charge of the restaurant.
At first, this seems like a dream come true to Squidward, as he can leave SpongeBob in charge of everything. But even as he tries to relax, he can't help but feel overwhelmed with fear that something bad will happen if he doesn't continually check the restaurant, and check with SpongeBob over every tiny detail.
Fortunately, SpongeBob is a very competent worker and has everything well in hand. But Squidward's anxiety keeps convincing him that something horrible will happen if he doesn't keep checking in.
Oh!
Try it.
I gotta buy this shit, bro.
Tropical breeze, fruity flavor.
I just don't want to buy this shit, bro. But I got to buy this shit, bro.
Time to tick tack.
The inner conflict OCD can have on people is very real here. Squidward is struggling as he's caving to his anxiety and following the compulsion to check. Unfortunately, this will just make his anxiety and compulsions even worse. He's just reinforcing them.
Now, repeat after me. You will not go back to the Krusty Krab.
I will destroy the Krusty Krab.
Now you might be saying, why is Squidward acting this crazy? But I think this episode highlights that these compulsions are very real, as illogical as they are to many people in the world. 2% of Americans, if you're curious. That being said, it's a great episode that's legitimately funny, and I like the fact that I can look at this and see, hey, it's happening to Squidward too. Lets me chuckle.
If these compulsions were a recurring theme for Squidward, it could very well have destroyed his life. Fortunately, he's back to his old self in the next episode.
Hey,
Hey,
bro, I ain't gonna lie, this shit getting kind of long, so we gonna have to wrap this bit up. But then we gonna, you know what I'm saying, we might end up doing more later down the line of this exact thing. That would let me know down in the comment section if it's what y'all want. I want to touch up on the goddamn how soft these motherfuckers really is in this video. The OCD shit or whatever the fuck it was, that shit's true. Cause I remember back in the day when I went down the crib, when I was at the crib at my grandma's house and everything, and then like say they leave early or some shit and they leave me back with my cousins, but shit, a nigga need a guard. So I push down to the gas station and everything. I'm thinking about what if my grandma come home? What if they wake up? What's gonna happen? Da da da. But like shit like that, that's true. But everything else I seen that shit being is like too soft, and then like the doctor thing, I feel like, hey man, motherfucker just I don't feel like too much is wrong with me. I'm good. I'm gonna just stay home, do my little at home shit. The squirrel jokes, I feel like that shit was just like, I could see where they trying to touch at with like racism and shit. At the same time, motherfucker was just getting cracked on and didn't like it. So when you getting cracked on, say a motherfucker cracking on you at school, some shit, a motherfucker getting cracked on at school, they be feeling some type of way, but it don't mean that we picking on them because they this that the third. We cracking on them because it's fucking with them. Shit, I crack on motherfuckers just because I see how bad it's fucking with them. If I see I'm getting reaction like you, my nigga, I'm gonna keep going. Fuck you talking about, bro? What the fuck is you saying? But I'm gonna wrap this video up, man. I love y'all, boy. I appreciate everything y'all do. You know what I'm saying? Hey, look out for the next one. I'm out.